Okay, let's work on problem 9.2 together. We're going to be calculating present value, and we have three different problems we're going to solve. And there are three different methods we can use to solve this problem. All of them will give us a slightly different answer based on rounding. But anyway, I am going to demonstrate at least two of these methods, and you can use the third if you like. But one of the tools that financial managers like to use is the calculator, and the biggest reason why a financial manager should learn how to use the tools that they have available is for efficiency. You don't have a lot of time to analyze things and do all the math associated with solving your problems and coming up with solutions. So if there is a tool available for you to use that saves you time, and that in financial management world is also money. So we need to effectively, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use two of those tools today. Alright, so let's take a look at the first one. First of all, you'll see over here I have a list of buttons that you can find on your calculator that we're going to be using. So make sure that you have your calculator. This is the BA2 Plus, Texas Instruments BA2 Plus financial calculator that I'm using today, and that's the one I'm going to demonstrate, and it's also the one that I recommend that you use as well. There are instructions on how to use the HP in your textbook, but I'm not going to demonstrate that. I'll be demonstrating the use of this calculator. This is the formula from the textbook to calculate present value. If you'd like to drop the numbers into this formula and then do all the math associated with it to come up with the answer, you can do that. I'm not going to be doing that today. And then we also have Appendix B, which is on a cardboard, I believe a cardboard sheet in the back, the very back of your textbook. There's Appendix A, B, C, and D, and we're calculating present value of $1, and that's on Appendix B. So the nice thing about these appendices is that they have already done this part of the math equation here and have given us the answer for this in the form of a table value, so we can just use that table value instead of doing all the math associated with this calculation here. So the appendix and the calculator are the most efficient ways of solving these problems, and those are the ones that we're going to be looking at today. So let's take a look at letter A. Okay, it says we're calculating what is the present value. So for my calculator here, present value is going to be what I'm solving for. Okay, that's my PV button. The present value of $7,900 in 10 years at 11%. So the future value then is $7,900. Okay. The number of years, N, is 10. The interest rate, which is IY, is 11. And payment, there is no payment you can see in here, so payment is 0. Alright, so I can put this stuff into my calculator and solve for present value, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get our calculators out. First thing I always do, I'll turn on my calculator using the on-off button, and I'll clear anything that's in there. So I'll push the clear, the CEC button, clear. And then what I need to do is press the second button. If I push the second button and the FV button immediately after that, you'll look right above the FV button. It says clear TVM. That clears your time value of money buttons. those are programmable buttons. You'll see how they work in a minute. But what that does is that clears the time value of money numbers that might be in those buttons, and so now you're ready to go. You won't mess up your calculations with accidentally leaving something in one of those buttons. Alright, so the first thing I'll do is clear time value of money, just like I did. Always do that first. And then I can start entering my numbers. So I'll type 10 on my calculator and then push the N button. I've just programmed that number 10 into the N button, periods. And then I'll type 11. And I'll push my IY button, that's the interest rate per period. PV stays at 0 at this point, so we're not gonna enter anything there. In fact, that's what we're going to solve for. Payment we know is 0, so we're going to type 0 payment button, and then if the future value is 7,900, so 7,900, and I'm going to push my FV button. So now I've programmed all my buttons in. Okay, now what I'm going to do here to solve for present value is just compute. I'm going to push my compute button and then PV, and that will give me the answer. So compute, which is up in the right hand corner, I'm sorry, the left hand corner, upper left hand corner, and then the PV button. And what do I get? I get a minus 2,782.26. Okay? What this means is if I want to receive $7,900 in the future, 10 years at 11%, I have to pay in or pay out $2,782.26. So this future value will cost me this much. That's why this is a negative. So you'll always see that happen in these formulas, these calculations. You have to have one of these numbers be a negative in order for this to work. So you'll see that as we go through the rest of the problems. Now Appendix B, you can do the same thing. Okay, so PV, our present value, equals 7,900 times the table value, and the table value is based on the number of periods, 10 periods at 11%. If I use the table properly, I look the column 10 periods and then the row 11%, and I get 0.352. Okay, so when I multiply those out, 7,900 times 0.352, I get 2780.80. Okay, so you can see they're not exactly the same. Because of rounding, you can see that they rounded these to the nearest, they rounded these to the third decimal place. So this of here, this formula, is not going to round, so it'll give you a little bit more precise calculation, but they're close, and that's close enough for us to finish that calculation. So, all right, and I can do the same thing with B, right? B says, what's the present value of 16,000? So if I do this, I will, for B, 16,600. What's the present value of 16,600 in 5 years? So I'll use 5 in N and 9%, and compute this present value and 0 for payment. So remember, we always have to do this first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear, and then I'm going to press the second button and the FV button. That clears all of those previous numbers out of those buttons. And then I can type 5 and push N, and 9 and push the IY button, and 0, push 0 and the payment button, and 16,600. That's my future value, so I'll push the FV button. Now I'm ready to compute, so I'm going to push the compute button and present value. And what do I get? I end up getting negative 10,788.86. Okay, so B would be 10,788.86. And finally C. Okay, we can do the same thing with C. So with C, let's see, what's the present value of 26? So the future value is $26,000. And number of years, N, is 14. And IY, which is interest rate, is 6%. And don't push the percent button, okay, because that'll screw things up, so make sure you don't push the percent button. And we still want to compute this present value, and payments are still 0, so I'm going to go ahead and again I'm going to push second and my FV button. First I'm going to clear second FV, that clears time value of money. Now I'm ready to enter my numbers into my calculator. 14 N 6 IY 0 payment PMT and 26 for FV, and now I push the compute button and present value, and I end up getting negative 11,499.93. Okay, so that's the answer. And we've just completed 3 present value calculations using the calculator, and I demonstrated 1 using the table.